On the night of November 7, 1974, inside a quiet house in Belgravia, London, a young woman named Sandra Rivett was murdered. She was 29 years old, working as a nanny for one of Britain's most talked-about aristocratic families. Within hours, the man suspected of killing her, Richard John Bingham, the 7th Earl of Lucan, had vanished. His car would be found abandoned near the coast, but Lord Lucan himself was never seen again. For decades, his disappearance became one of Britain's most enduring mysteries. But behind the legend of the missing lord was a real victim, a wounded survivor, and a family left with questions that never truly ended. Lord Lucan was born Richard John Bingham in December 1934. To the outside world, he belonged to a class of wealth, titles, private clubs, and inherited privilege. He had been educated at Eton, served in the Coldstream Guards, and later became known in London gambling circles as Lucky Lucan. But the nickname did not mean his life was stable. By the early 1970s, Lucan was losing money heavily, and his marriage to Veronica Duncan, Lady Lucan, had collapsed into bitterness. The couple had 3 children, and after their separation, a difficult custody dispute followed. In 1973, the court awarded custody of the children to Lady Lucan. According to later accounts, Lucan became increasingly focused on his former wife and the household at 46 Lower Belgrave Street. Sandra Rivett entered that household in 1974. She was not a symbol, not a footnote, and not simply the nanny in a famous scandal. She was a young woman with her own life, her own history, and people who loved her. Sandra had worked different jobs before becoming a domestic nanny, and by late 1974, she was caring for the Lucan children in Belgravia. On the evening of Thursday, November 7th, she was inside the house with Lady Lucan and the children. What happened next would be reconstructed through witness statements, forensic evidence, and Lady Lucan's own account. Around 8:55 that evening, Sandra reportedly went downstairs to the basement kitchen to make a cup of tea. She never came back. When Lady Lucan went to investigate, she was attacked near the basement stairs. She later said she was struck repeatedly before managing to escape. Injured and bleeding, Lady Lucan ran from the house to a nearby pub, the Plumber's Arms. Inside 46 Lower Belgrave Street, police would later find Sandra Rivett's body. She had been killed by blunt force injuries. A blood-stained lead pipe was found at the scene. Lord Lucan was not at the house when police arrived. Later that night, he contacted his mother and asked her to collect the children. He also drove to Uckfield in East Sussex, where he visited friends, Ian and Susan Maxwell Scott. Susan Maxwell Scott's meeting with him became the last confirmed sighting of Lord Lucan. Lucan claimed that he had come across his wife being attacked by another man and had entered the house to help her, but investigators questioned that account. There was no obvious sign of forced entry, and forensic evidence raised serious problems for Lucan's version of events. On November 10th, his borrowed Ford Corsair was found abandoned in Newhaven, near the south coast. In the boot, police found another piece of lead pipe wrapped in surgical tape. By November 12th, a warrant had been issued for Lucan's arrest, on suspicion of murdering Sandra Rivett and attempting to murder Lady Lucan. His description was circulated to police forces and to Interpol, but Lord Lucan had disappeared into silence. Some believed he had taken his own life shortly after the murder. Others suggested he may have been helped to flee the country. Over the years, alleged sightings were reported in places as far apart as Africa, India, New Zealand, and Australia. None of them has ever been confirmed. In June 1975, an inquest jury returned a verdict naming Lord Lucan as Sandra Rivett's killer. This was not a criminal trial, because Lucan was not there to stand trial, but it was a formal and devastating finding. Sandra's family were left without the one thing a courtroom might have offered them, a full public reckoning. And Lady Lucan was left to live with the aftermath of a night that had destroyed her family. The Lord Lucan case became more than a murder investigation. It became a story about class, privilege, press obsession, and the possibility that wealth could help a man disappear. Some theories claim Lucan was protected by powerful friends, but without confirmed evidence, those claims remain speculation. What is known is that Lucan's social circle was scrutinized, his movements were investigated, and police searches failed to find him. The missing Earl became a kind of ghost in British public life. In 1999, Lord Lucan was declared legally dead for probate purposes. But it was not until February 3, 2016, that a High Court judge issued a death certificate under the Presumption of Death Act. That ruling allowed his son, George Bingham, to inherit the title as the 8th Earl of Lucan. Legally, Lord Lucan was dead, but the central questions remained. What exactly happened inside 46 Lower Belgrave Street? Did Lucan intend to kill his wife and murder Sandra Rivett by mistake? Did he die soon afterwards, or did he escape with help? And why, after so many years, has no confirmed trace of him ever been found? The Metropolitan Police has said the inquiry into Sandra Rivett's death remains open, as with all unsolved murders. Any significant new information could still be considered, but half a century has now passed since Sandra walked down those basement stairs. For many people, Lord Lucan is remembered as the aristocrat who vanished, but Sandra Rivett should be remembered as the woman who lost her life. Her story was overshadowed for years by the title, the mystery, and the mythology surrounding the man suspected of killing her. But at the center of this case is not a legend. It is a murder. It is a survivor. And it is a family still living with the silence left behind. Lord Lucan disappeared in 1974. Sandra Rivett never had the chance to.